Hello, I'm Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com. And today I want to just go through something that's really important that people seem to be getting confused about. I've had a lot of information and discussion in my First Aid for Life page and in my Stay Safe community about whether bleeding is more important than breathing or breathing is more important than bleeding. It all boils down to what you can see and what is going on. Generally, for the majority of cases, breathing will be more important than bleeding. So you will check for danger, you'll check for response, you'll open the airway, you'll check for breathing, and if they are breathing, you'll put them in the recovery position, and if they're not breathing, you'll start CPR. So the vast majority of cases, that will be what you need to concentrate on. However, sometimes, if there is a catastrophic bleed, then bleeding is more important than breathing. However, that is obvious. You will see if there is a catastrophic bleed, if it is an external bleed, and if it is an internal bleed, there is nothing much that you personally as a first aider can do about it. So we're worrying about an external catastrophic bleed. It will be obvious. So unless the person is wrapped up in a lot of thick coats, and I was involved in trying to resuscitate a teenager who was stabbed when they were on the tube. It was winter, they were wearing a lot of, they were wearing a thick coat and jumpers and things, and it wasn't immediately apparent that that person had been stabbed and that they were having a catastrophic bleed. So it wasn't apparent initially. So just, undo clothing, but don't do a major search for a catastrophic bleed, because the vast majority of the time, if it is a catastrophic bleed, there will be a lot of blood and it will be very obvious. Going back to the poor girl that was stabbed on the tube, when we were looking after her in A&E, as fast as we were putting blood into her and doing CPR on her, the blood was just coming out of her. That is a catastrophic bleed. If you're trying to do CPR on someone whilst they are still bleeding out, they are not going to recover. And someone can bleed out within 4 minutes if it is an arterial bleed and it is spurting and it is obvious. So my message is, the vast majority of the time, breathing is more important than bleeding. If there is obvious bleeding and it is severe bleeding, particularly if you can't immediately stop it with direct pressure, then that will then be your priority to stop that bleeding, and hopefully somebody else will come along and help you quickly so that you can be doing CPR as well if they are unconscious and not breathing. So I hope that is helpful. It's not a matter of search for blood and then worry about breathing. Breathing is likely to be your first priority if there is no obvious, horrendous, catastrophic bleeding. I really hope that's been helpful. Please let me know in your comments. That's Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life.